Some Habs prospects were horribly disrespected in the Athletics' most recent top 50 prospect rankings. But before we get into that, we want to discuss the prospect challenge coming this September, and the Habs are back, baby. If you remember last year, that's where some Habs players like Owen, Beck, and Arber Xhekaj got their start, so it'll be a very exciting time, so stick around for this edition of Habs Digest. Jesse, the first thing, like we mentioned, the Habs are returning to the Prospects Challenge, and this was a really fun thing last year. They announced on Tuesday the team's prospects will take part in the rookie tournament to be played from September 15th to 18th in Buffalo. This year, the invites from the Sabres are the Canadiens, Bruins, Devils, Senators, and Penguins. We have a look at the schedule. If you remember, last year versus the Ottawa Senators were some of the most rough, ridiculous games we've ever seen, with some 30-year-old ECHLers on the Sens trying to take out our prospects. But this is exciting regardless, Jesse. I mean, isn't it just awesome to see, like, especially after last year, to see some maybe underrated prospects really be able to shine through?
And it's awesome to see that hockey's right around the corner. And like you said, Josh, it's such a great opportunity, right? Because when you're playing against other teams and it's not just these inter squad sort of exhibition type of games, it really brings out like another level in the competition. And of course, we remember Xhekaj coming in so handy against the Sens, but also Beck. You know, Owen Beck having such a great tournament as well, showing that what a great, smart hockey player he is, how good he is in the dot. So, I mean, this is going to be huge for these players, right? You know, they're definitely looking forward to this quite a bit, you know, so definitely going to be interesting to see who's going to really stand out, you know, at this year's camp. You know, I'm maybe thinking Joshua Waugh might have a good showing, as you know, fans of the channel know I'm pretty big on him. Who are you thinking, Josh? Who's somebody to look at for this prospect challenge coming up?
You know, there's a lot of potential prospects, and just to give you guys some more info, too, the head coach of Laval Rocket, I think it's Jean-François Houle, Jean something, I mean, anyway. But he's coaching it, so you got to think there's going to be a lot of AHL guys there. But Jesse, one maybe underrated guy that I think has a real chance to prove himself, maybe not someone that everyone thinks of first, but I think that's Philippe Méchard. And I think especially in the last few months, Habs fans and maybe even management, we don't know, like they're not as high on Méchard as maybe we used to be, just because he hasn't quite shown that flair that we've been expecting. His progression in the OHL hasn't quite been where we've wanted it, but we've seen those flashes of skill. So I think that if he can put together a really good prospect challenge, I think maybe not the NHL right away, but he's definitely going to set himself up a lot better for his future NHL chances. What do you think about that?
It's true. We got to remember, he's still a first-round pick. He's got a lot of skill. You know, a lot of people think that he's definitely going to have some good chemistry with Juraj Slafkovsky. So that'd be amazing, right? If we could both get them at the NHL, see what they can kind of do together. So you're right. You know, he is a player that we got to definitely keep an eye on. He has a lot of potential. He could end up becoming a really great player for the Habs. Another one who I think is probably one of them that's closer to being ready is also Emil Heineman, another player with a great shot, you know, so we'll see how he does at this camp as well.
Yeah, but I still think your first instinct with Joshua Waugh, I think he can really, like, again, he's a physical guy, and we saw last year physicality was a huge component of this prospect challenge. So to see Joshua Waugh maybe not drop the mitts, but to be able to get into those right spots, I mean, he'll definitely endear himself to Habs management. So I'm really excited. Maybe some defenders too. Someone like Logan Mailloux might be able to really show some power play potential. I don't think Lane Hutson's going to play in this. I think the NCAA has some rules, but it'll be very exciting nonetheless. All right, let's get into the big part of the video. Canadians got some pretty big disrespect in the recent Athletic Top 50 Prospect ranking. So before we get into where these Habs are ranked, let's give you a bit of context around how Scott Wheeler likes to rank his players. Under his criteria, it's a bit arbitrary, to be fair. He kind of mentions, like, you got to not be a full-time NHL player, and that's kind of arbitrary. He just trusts his judgment. For example, Slafkovsky is not ranked here because he is considered a full-time NHLer. I mean, clearly the Habs had no intention of sending him down. He played 39 games, fair enough. You have to be under 23 and either on an NHL deal or just have been drafted. But Jesse, this is where it gets interesting. Taking a look here, these are the only two Habs on the list. You see David Reinbacher there at number 20 and Lane Hutson at number 27. Our top right-handed D and our top left-handed D prospects. And the first thing that stands out to me, Jesse, is how low Reinbacher is compared to his fellow draftmates. Guys like Ryan Leonard, who, might have been mocked above Reinbacher, but Matthew Wood, Oliver Moore, Dalibor Dvorsky, Gabe Perreault, and there's a few more up there in the top 10. I think Reinbacher was something like 8th or 9th, maybe even lower in his own draft class. I mean, let's start with him before we get into Hutson. Do you feel like that's too low of a ranking for Reinbacher? Because quite honestly, I'd have him quite a few spots higher.
Yeah, I think so as well, and of course this is taking account not just, this past year's draft, but also some other drafts as well. But, he was definitely considered, the best defenseman of this draft, just happened to be a right-hand defenseman as well, and a lot of mock drafts, at least for this year, he was in the top 10 as well, so, you had to feel like, definitely seeing a little bit higher. I would have definitely, in my own opinion, Josh, I'm a little bit still higher on Lane Hutson, just because I feel like he's such a special player, so dynamic and in so many ways, kind of like that fourth forward kind of on the ice, but, for Reinbacher, honestly, yeah, like, he definitely deserves to be a little bit higher up there, but I think he'll have plenty of opportunity to prove a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, and speaking of proving people wrong, let's talk a bit about Lane Hutson at 27. And, he's been proving people wrong since day one, except not Scott Wheeler. Scott Wheeler, who actually does these rankings, had Lane Hutson at 19 on his draft board last year. So, like, he's always been very high on Hutson, and he says so in the article. I know you and I are both very high on Lane Hutson, Jesse. I mean, to me, there's easily an argument for Hutson to be in the top 20 current prospects that aren't full-time NHLers. I mean, I don't really see a reason why he wouldn't be. He's shown up at every level that he's been expected to show up at. The only issue still is his size, and we're seeing now the trend in players getting smaller and smaller. I don't know. I feel like he should be a lot higher.
And we're just going to continue to see him go up this because, he's honestly a lot further away from the NHL than a lot of people on this list. So he's going to have lots of opportunity to kind of climb up. Another year at the NCAA, you got to feel like another year at the AHL as well. So, he's slowly kind of getting that respect that he deserves. But it's interesting in this article, Scott refers to him as one of the most clever players in sport, and mentioning how he can basically be used as a fourth forward out there, which is such a great point, right? Mm-hmm. Think of a team that can really utilize this in the best way, like a fourth forward. If you really are smart about this can be very advantageous to you. And also as well, just reading this article and just obviously having him seen him play lately is just, I'm so looking forward to just seeing him on the power play. Mm-hmm. I feel like he's just going to completely revolutionize the Habs power play, something that we've needed for so long. Even if it's good by the time that he gets here, he's just going to take it up so many levels further. He's just such an incredibly intelligent, dynamic player, can deke you out, 5 ways to Sunday, so, for all those reasons, definitely would have him a little bit higher up on this list.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. If we were excited with what Matheson did on the power play last year, I can't even imagine what Lane Hutson's going to do. Before we move on to our final topic, Jesse, would you have Lane Hutson over David Reinbacher at this very moment?
Absolutely, yes. Wow. Because it's just Lane Hutson brings so many different intangibles, right? And you could say, oh, yes, he's small, but if he was bigger, he wouldn't be able to play the way he does. What makes him so effective is he has these very quick strides, and that's what really makes him so shifty, right? So hard to track, whereas being a bigger player, right, he wouldn't be able to get away with these same moves in the same type of way. It allows him to be very maneuverable. Even though he's small, he has such a great way of using his positioning and just being such a great skater on the ice, right? So often he's able to get out of these situations, win those puck battles without even really having to engage all that physically. He's just a tremendously intelligent hockey player. We're seeing him right now. He's been competing with the likes of Brian Leetch, who is a Hall of Famer, right? These are his peers in terms of who he's competing with in terms of scoring as a defenseman in the NCAA. So for all these historic reasons, I have to take Lane Hutson over Reinbacher at this point in time.
Very interesting. I might say they're pretty close. I might just put Reinbacher ahead for now because he's the most recent 5th overall pick, and I really want him to be amazing. But again, they're such different players, it's hard to rank them. But yeah, I think they both should be at least a few spots higher, and I completely agree with everything you said. Let us know down in the comments, who would you have higher right now, Reinbacher or Hutson? It's a very interesting question. Final thing before we end off the video, we got we'll take just a minute to talk about SWOLE Caufield. Take a look at this, guys. Oh my gosh, look at him, look at his arms, right? But not that, not just that. Stop staring at his arms, all right? The big point here, guys, he is doing shoulder press with 50-pound dumbbells, and this is a guy who has a surgically repaired shoulder. To me, that is a very good sign, especially at this point in July. I mean, he looks like he's not straining. Of course, we don't have a video, so we really can't come to any conclusions from that. But still, seeing him do this kind of exercise with decently heavy weight, at least, seems like a good sign to me.
No, definitely. And I even noticed it earlier from a couple other photos just seeing him in the gym, even when he wasn't really even specifically lifting, just look bigger in his arms, especially, right? And as we know, use those arms quite a bit for being one of the better snipers in the NHL, right? So great to see that just the rehab is going so well, but also really taking that time to put the work in the gym. It's actually a little bit surprising, right? Like, it's quite, he's got the gains quite a bit right now. So, I mean, it's a good look for him and for the team, and that he's taking it seriously, putting in the work that he has to. You have to feel like his NHL career is just going to be so bright. I just can't wait to watch him this year, just play, he's going to be amazing, so great to see him putting in that work right now.
Yeah, we got to get Lane Hutson in the Cole Caufield school of muscles. If you can't grow this way, at least grow this way. So, we'll see how that turns out in the next couple of years. But I'm excited to see Cole Caufield fire some even harder snapshots or wrist shots. That'll be pretty exciting to watch. But that'll do it for this edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. As you guys all know, we've been really, really appreciative of the support, and we plan to continue for a long, long time. I'm Josh Gosse for my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.